He's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Rocky. He finishes his speech and he goes, "Hit it, Rock!" And Set It Off by Boosie Badass played. As a young white man, it was my first time hearing that song, Set It Off. Yeah, we finna set it off. You heard me? I'm finna put you in the trash bag. Tired of all these knowing me right now, for real. You wanna talk shit? You wanna run your mouth? You want some gangster strut your mother in the house? We'll set this job. Yeah. And that was my first time hearing Set It Off. At Samford University, it was the third or fourth week of camp. We were about where teams are right now. Right before the season, everybody's pissing and moaning. We had a different coach come up and give a motivational speech in the afternoon each day. He was our running backs coach at the time by the name of Derek Foster. Coach Foster came up there, toughness and pushing through. He got real razzed up as his speech progressed. We had a video coordinator named Okay. I think we're back here. I think we're back. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Sorry about that, man. I just noticed a little bar on my Streamlabs wasn't moving, and you guys were saying I was muted and all this stuff. We should be back. I'm going to have 2 different audio recordings for this episode, and so in order to hear the first half, you guys might have to go listen to the audio portion. This is about having. This is part of having a live. Okay, we're back. We're good. This is part of having a live show with no production team. This is why I need you guys to subscribe to the channel so I can hire a production team. But I was talking about the Bills. I was talking about parity in the AFC. Really feel like I was spitting game too, man. Like most of y'all aren't gonna hear that first 13 minutes of the show, but there's more parity in the AFC and the NFL than ever. I got to get my whole flow back now. I feel like I got to start the whole shit up again here. We in it today, baby. Oh, shit. Lord have mercy. Let's get back in it, man. Let's get back in it. It's going to happen. I don't know what changed. I don't know why we go 14 minutes without noticing that the mic's active, but that's part of the game, baby. So, really all I was saying, the Bengals were eliminated officially from the playoffs. The Chiefs were officially eliminated from the playoffs. And I was just talking about how I miss the old days, how much things have changed since 3 years ago. The last time the Bengals were in the playoffs was the AFC Championship game against Kansas City in 2022 when Joseph Osai hit Mahomes a bit late on the sideline, gave Kansas City a crucial first down, and then they kick and they go to the Super Bowl and they win. And then you go to the year before that, that's when the Bengals went to the Super Bowl. In the last, I think it's 10 years, maybe longer, the de facto GM of the Colts, Cincinnati Bengals, Duke Tobin, has an 80% miss rate with the playoffs. The Bengals are mathematically eliminated now. The Chiefs are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs now. Brutal span of events for the Chiefs against the Chargers. Yesterday, Mahomes goes out with an ACL, and they're eliminated from the playoffs in a matter of minutes. Gardner Minshew ended up throwing a pick to Derwin James right in front of Travis Kelce's head, which sealed the deal for the Chargers. And a lot of people are saying the Chargers are Super Bowl dark horses, if you will. I will believe it when I see it. I'd love to see Justin Herbert play a little ball in the playoffs. Haven't seen it. And on the other end of that coin, I think part of what's so frustrating as a Bengals fan is we saw the potential of those guys in 2021 and 2022. Haven't been back to the playoffs since. This is new territory for Kansas City. Also, something you guys didn't hear as I was muted. Tied for the most comebacks, 6 teams won in Week 15 after trailing by at least 10 points. That ties an NFL single-week record. NFL has never had more comebacks in 1 week. Magic and chaos across the entire slate. New England was up 21-0 against Buffalo yesterday. Patriots thought they were catapulting to divine proportions. And then Buffalo comes roaring back. I'll tell the story again. I'm basically going to start the podcast from scratch right now. I'm going to say everything I said when I was muted. So yesterday, I didn't have access to the Bengals TV broadcast. I'm talking early slate here. I didn't have access to the Bengals game. Some weeks I have Sunday ticket. This week I didn't. So I listened to the Bengals radio broadcast while I was working out. Instead of this shit, instead of some good music, I chose to listen to my Cincinnati Bengals. That's the dedication we got around here. And as I was listening to the game, I got to listen to the first half, let's say. I had to go do a podcast with Tim Welch. I got to go do a podcast with Tim Welch. So I didn't have the Bengals game on TV, listened to it on the radio. I'm working out. And as I'm working out, I'm realizing that the Bengals are moving the ball well, but they're just having anticlimactic, unfortunate, unforced things happening to them to stall out drives. First drive, Cincinnati's on Baltimore's 31. And then Burrow gets sacked, loses like 10, 15 yards, and all of a sudden you bring a Rico out there to punt. Where a penalty knocks you out of field goal range. All these things happen early. And I feel like it completely destroyed any semblance of hope to get some momentum for Cincinnati on the offensive side of the ball. It was a 9-degree day in Cincinnati on the Ohio River. 9 degrees. And you still had fans showing up to watch the game. And how does the front office repay the fans? By not even getting close to clearing the snow and ice off of the seats in the stadium. There were reports that by NFL standards, this was unacceptable. That the Bengals could technically be fined for that. You want to talk organizational malpractice? They don't clear off the seats. Much like the product they've put on the field, it seems like the fans are putting much more into this team than the literal ownership group is. And to add insult to injury, hey, here's your 4-10 ball club. Why don't you come watch them in 9-degree weather? And, oh, yeah, we're going to leave the snow and ice on your seats. It's absolutely miserable. So, like a good little boy, I was listening to this team. I was listening to the Bengals broadcast of this team. And there, at this point, I'm wrapping up my workout. I'm on the assault bike. Nothing crazy. And the Bengals are down 7-0. And they're getting the ball back. And the end of the first half is starting to get close. And I remember getting off the bike and going to do my podcast with Tim, going to do a podcast with Tim Welch. And I remember the Bengals radio broadcast team saying, oh, well, the Bengals get the ball to start the half. It'd be great if they could get some points here and double dip. About 15 or 20 minutes after that, I get these ESPN widgets on my home screen of my phone. About 15 or 20 minutes after I heard them say that, I was on the move, not listening to the game for some reason. I probably had intuitively lost hope already. And I checked the score, and it says 17-0 Baltimore. And I said, oh, looks like we double dipped. Looks like we double dipped. My God, they've done it again. And that was when I knew the game was over. That was when I knew the season was over. It's really sad when you're a fan of a team that has players like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, and you just know what's going to happen before it's even happened. I thought about opening the show and being like, oh, you guys watch that game? Y'all a bunch of suckers for even thinking that this Bengals team would do anything except lose in the fashion that they lost yesterday. But that's not fun. I mean, I listened to them for the first half. I'm glad that I had a podcast to go do because it just looked like the same depressing result. Another game I listened to was Indianapolis against Seattle. That one was intriguing if you watched any episodes from the show last week. That one was intriguing for me on a personal level. And I think it was intriguing for everyone to a certain extent, watching a 44-year-old grandfather come back for a team that was once heralded this season as the best team in the AFC, now completely desperate are the Indianapolis Colts. And my God, they hung in, man. They hung in. Seattle was one of those comeback wins. Seattle was the first team in the NFL this season to win a game without scoring a touchdown. And I don't think that that's a testament against Indy's offense. I think that was a testament for Indy's defense. Indy, time and time again, had short fields against Seattle, especially late in the game. Seattle seemed like they had it in close almost every possession they had, somehow, some way. And I'm trying to understand it because Rigoberto Sanchez, the punter for Indy, who's had a great career there, by the way, played an incredible game, punted the ball beautifully, pinned him back. But it just seemed like when Seattle needed to be in plus territory, they got into plus territory, and it seemed like all day the Colts defense stood tall. It's just that kicker for Seattle, I can't remember his name. The kicker for Seattle played incredibly. It was just a hell of a game. I was out on the golf course listening to the Colts broadcast of the Colts Seahawks game, and it was just a sick-ass game, dude. Sick-ass game. Phil Rivers throws one pick. It was on the last drive. It was maybe Indy had 20 seconds to get into field goal range. I mean, it was a tall order for anybody, let alone a 44-year-old off the couch. And I would imagine, like I said, I didn't watch it, but I listened to it. I would imagine that one pick on Phil Rivers' stat line at the end of the game, the last drive of the series, that he was probably going for something he shouldn't have gone for. I don't know, but, you know, Indy's kicker, too, hit a huge 60-yard field goal, and they left like 47 seconds on the clock, and that was enough for Darnold and JSN and those guys to get Seattle down there to where their kicker, who I think was like 6 for 6, he hits a 56-yarder with 19 seconds left to ice it. I watched some of that Buffalo-New England game. I watched the part of that game where Buffalo was getting their ass kicked. I watched the part of the game where I walked out of the house to go do this podcast thinking, well, they've got that hemmed in. And then I obviously heard about the Bills' comeback. Absurd. James Cook looks like he absolutely went off. The L.A. Rams pulled off a successful comeback against Detroit. Tyler Shuck might be an actual player. This guy, this quarterback for New Orleans Saints, might be an actual football player, guys. New Orleans beats Carolina in arguably the most chaotic division in pro football, the NFC South. We had the Army-Navy game this weekend. Gritty as all get out. I'm talking disciplined football. some good whites out there playing in the Army-Navy game. That was really the only college football I got my eyes on. And I did catch the end of that New Orleans Carolina game. Charlie Smythe, I think, was the kicker's name for New Orleans that got the game winner. I think New Orleans was down at least 10. Lord, every time I get on this damn podcast, I start burping. I don't know what it is. I think it's nerves. Okay. 6 teams come back from double-digit deficits in 1 week. The NFL is completely balanced. Okay. Bills down 21-0 in New England. Patriots about to be the dynasty. Then Josh Allen said, no, okay, these hot takes were terrible, brother. Chiefs are officially out of the playoffs. Kansas City will miss the playoffs for the first time in 11 years. This ends the second longest consecutive playoff streak in NFL history, only after the New England Patriots, the Tom Brady New England Patriots, ended by 1 pick from Derwin James in front of Travis Kelce. It's over completely, officially. The 11-year streak is unprecedented, making the playoffs in the modern era. Only the Patriots, again, like I said, Tom Brady's Patriots had a longer run of 10-plus years like that. And the question is the Mahomes-Reed dynasty in question? A lot of people are wondering, is this going to be the last that we see of the Kansas City Chiefs looking the way that they look? And my immediate knee-jerk is, I don't think so. I really don't. It's just something in my gut tells me that they'll be back. Something tells me that it's a well-run organization, and they're going to figure out what the flaws were this year, and they're going to do their best to fix it. They've got a real GM. They've got a real scouting department. They're actually equipped to fix these kind of problems in Kansas City, unlike Cincinnati. And something tells me they're going to be fine. Look, my inclination, this is something I talked about while we were muted, how I miss the Burrow-Mahomes rivalry. Bengals, this will be 3 years in a row without making the playoffs. The last time the Bengals made it to the playoffs was when they got to the AFC Championship in 2022 and lose to Kansas City. Year before that, they went to the Super Bowl. And now this rivalry has absolutely no juice behind it. Both of arguably the most special quarterbacks of my generation, age-wise, will not be in the playoffs. And that's going to open the way for guys like Bo Nix, guys like Drake May, guys like, God forbid, Trevor Lawrence, God forbid, Justin Herbert, to maybe get a little shine this year. I think it's I saw a graphic. There's only been, in terms of representing the AFC, since, oh Lord, I can't even remember, but it's been Mahomes pretty much every year since 2021. 2021 it was Burrow. 2020 it was Mahomes again, and then from 19 backward, it's basically like Brady, Peyton, and Joe Flacco one time. And that's it. When you go back to I think the last at least 15, 20 years. So for the first time in however long that's been, you're going to see a new quarterback representing the AFC this season in the Super Bowl. Patriots, let's compare the Chiefs to the Patriots real quick. Patriots from 2004 to 2014 had a 10-year gap between Super Bowl wins. They had 2 Super Bowl losses to Eli Manning, one in 2007, one in 2011. Still considered a dynasty despite a 10-year Super Bowl gap. The question is, will the Chiefs follow the same path? I think there's no telling. This is football. It's chaotic in nature. It's unpredictable by nature. If it was predictable, then we probably wouldn't even be half as interested in it. A lot of y'all in the chat seem to think that it's predictable as much as you bet on it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. The questions now are, will Mahomes carry this team from one chapter to the next? I think he does. Can Andy Reid continue coaching at an elite level? Yes. Is Travis Kelce at the end of his career? I think he is. I think he is. I think the guy, and look, we had all the Swift craziness. We had this, we had that. Look, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. Money and success for most people, it keeps you from being hungry. Football is a hard sport. And most of what's hard about football is the stuff you don't see. Practice every day, treatment, rehab if you're hurt, film. It's hard. And when you got a woman like that at home that makes that kind of money, and Kelce is certainly sitting on his own pile of money that he's made in his career. He's got a hugely successful podcast with his brother. I mean, I would not be surprised at all if in the next year, 2 years, that Kelce doesn't walk away from the game on his own terms. And look, NFL stands for not for long. You know, it's a win for somebody if they're able to walk away from the game on their own terms. Yep, this NFL season has been weird. And I think it's parity, man. I think it's, and I don't think anything's contributed to it at all. I think it's just by chance. It's just one of those seasons where the stars kind of align. If you're a Bengals fan, they're definitely not aligned. But if you want parity, you know, I think it's just a season where the stars kind of align and any team can beat any team. There's no real dominant power in the NFL this year. Well, look, you got the Denver Broncos who've ripped off 11 games in a row. Started 1-2. They rip off 11 games in a row. They're sitting at 12-2. If you look at the record, you'd argue that, that team's definitely like the power of the league this year. But the way they've won has not been pretty. There's clearly flaws. So even with the best teams by record, they're not really dominant. You understand? God, man, it pains me. And again, I don't know what I said while I was muted for the first 14 minutes. So if I'm repeating myself, forgive me. I'm just making sure I cover all my bases. But you know, you got Bills fans all over Twitter. You got Bills fans all over social media saying this is the last year in Highmark Stadium. Nobody in the AFC is really showing up. This is Josh Allen's year. And the way they found a way to win yesterday, look, they might be right. And I don't know where the animosity from Buffalo fans towards Cincinnati has come. I think it was the whole Damar Hamlin thing. I think the emotional fallout from the Damar Hamlin thing, the fact that it was against the Bengals, I think Bills fans just want to direct that emotional strife towards something external. And I think that just happens to be Cincinnati. Because that's when that's who the Damar Hamlin thing happened against. But Bills fans, and the Bills just played the Bengals too, so that might be part of it. But Bills fans have been very nasty to Cincinnati Bengals fans, even beyond this past week or two, like the past year or so. Bills fans have been very nasty to Cincinnati fans, and they're like, you guys handled the Damar Hamlin shit terrible and all this stuff. It's like, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. Like DeMar Hamlin, here's the thing, and I think I said this when I was muted. DeMar Hamlin, I had a girl I used to date. Right, I don't date her anymore. It's just something kind of funny to bring up. When the DeMar Hamlin stuff was happening, I was dating this girl, and I went to look at DeMar Hamlin's Instagram page, and he had been following my girl. And that kind of pissed me off a little bit. But that aside, I'm glad the guy's living. You know what I mean? I'm glad he's alive. Hopefully they didn't replace him with a robot or something like they did with Joe Biden. But I digress. You know what I'm saying? I still remember the times where I think it was 2014. Cincinnati had a meaningless Week 17 game. They were out of the playoffs. Andy Dalton led team. They had a meaningless game to them against Baltimore late in the season. And Buffalo needed help to get in. It was back when they had that D lineman, Kyle Williams, that big white D lineman. Buffalo needed us to beat Baltimore to get in. And I think we won in improbable miracle fashion, like a Hail Mary or something. And there's clips of Buffalo watching the end of that game unfold, seeing if their season was over or not. And hundreds of thousands of fans donated to Andy Dalton's charity the next day. That's how I remember Bills fans and Bengals fans interacting. Not this who's better, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow stuff. It's it's different times we're in, man. Mahomes and Burrow both out of the playoffs, dude. Just crazy. You got Chris Jones getting older for Kansas City. You got Travis Kelce probably close to the end of the road. Look, the guy is fed. Why would you come back to the dinner table if you've already eaten? He's fed in his personal life. And to boot, the lady in his personal life probably has enough money to feed multiple continents for multiple generations, if not more. I wouldn't. Football's a hard game, man. I don't know. If you guys in the chat disagree, tell me why you disagree. But I think it's the end of the line for Kelce. They're going to have to find a new young guy to replace that exact role. Bonus points if they find the exact kind of player that Kelce was stylistically to go with Mahomes. But a lot of that magic that was created over the years by the Chiefs was between Mahomes and Kelce in those big moments. You see Kelce's production kind of falling off. So he's not really the guy in that offense anymore. Rashee Rice, tons and tons of talent, but I wonder if the guy's got it between the ears. I wonder if he's got it between the ears. And then you got Worthy. And Worthy is an exceptionally talented player. But does he have the size to make contested catches? Probably not. So you leave Kansas City in this kind of weird position where Mahomes has still definitely got plenty of years of good play in him. His number one target for years and years and years, Kelce, is engaged to the most famous woman in the world, probably the richest woman in the world as well. He runs the most successful sports podcast in the world right now. And he's got Super Bowl rings, and he's got his own pile of money that he's sitting on from his good career. I'll tell you guys one thing. Kansas City can't rely on Kelce to be the go-to guy in that offense anymore. We just got to call a spade a spade. Age is a factor too, obviously. Tight end, not the least physical position on the football field to play into old age. Now, if you were to be able to play tight end to an old age, you could probably play it the way Kelce plays it into an old age, right? He's not the kind of guy you line up tight and tell him to mash heads with somebody for 40 reps a game. No, you're going to line him up out wide. You're going to tell him to
take grass if he feels it on a route, try to avoid contact. And obviously the rule set in the NFL heavily favors receivers, heavily favors offense. Like if you're a receiver in the NFL these days, you're not getting stung on a slant across the middle anymore. We heard Michael Irvin talk all about that earlier this year. So I hope I'm wrong about Kelce, but I just don't see him as a viable number one option in that offense anymore. They've got to be either aggressive in free agency and get a number one pass catcher type of guy in his prime. We're not talking about a DeAndre Hopkins anymore. We're not talking about who else have they tried to bring in there? I can't think of anyone, but you gotta if you're Kansas City, right? You go and who's a good receiver on a struggling team? Let's think here for a minute. A good young receiver on a team that's maybe struggling. Maybe you get like a Tetaroa McMillan from Carolina. Somewhere. Carolina's got a chance to make the playoffs, though. But someone like that, someone with that talent level, you don't got to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on them. You got to spend tens of millions of dollars on them. You know, do they get aggressive in the trade market this offseason? Do they get aggressive in the free agent market? Or do they just say, we're going to do our best to draft smart? How many ACLs were taken yesterday? Micah Parsons yeeted his shit, and it's very sad, and I wish him a fast recovery. Mahomes also yeeted his SHIT, and wish him a fast and expeditious recovery. Good news with Mahomes is that he didn't damage any other ligaments in his knee. It was just the ACL. So the recovery, the rehab will be much less complicated. But I don't think this is, and I am going to have to leave you guys here in a minute. This isn't a disaster for Kansas City. It's just a reset moment. It's just a moment of we are mortal. We are human. Sustained success like this in the NFL is not normal. And as much as I want to hate on the Chiefs, look, Bengals fan to audience here, I want to hate on the Chiefs so bad. But you cannot discount what they've done in the last decade. Something about Andy Reid getting older. Who cares? Age has seemed to be a factor with some coaches, though, like Pete Carroll, you know. But I think with the Raiders, you know, they're definitely the worst team in the NFL. It's just roster construction. You know, they got to figure out a new way to run that organization over there. One pick from Derwin James ends an 11-year streak. That's how tight it was. Okay. We got Steelers-Dolphins here very soon. Steelers 3-point favorites at home. It seems like the Dolphins are still playing for a little something here. Remember how we were talking about them in September, October? About how he had lost them? Not anymore. Miami's in the mix. And I bet that they find a way to make this a game tonight in Pittsburgh somehow. Pittsburgh, very inconsistent. They're coming off a really good game against Baltimore last week. And I'd be willing to bet that they're going to have a down night tonight at home. Looks like Pittsburgh. Is it true that Pittsburgh has a 22-game home winning streak? Is that true? Steelers still playing for the division title, and it seems like with Baltimore winning. What college did Jackson Dart go to? Well, he went to Ole Miss. Somebody trying to test me on my ball knowledge, bro. He probably been watching them clips where the guy goes around the stadium to NFL fans and asks them what school Derrick Henry went to, and all these Ravens fans can't answer it. What college? Ole Miss, dude. DK Metcalf, Ole Miss. DK Metcalf will be playing tonight. TJ Watt's out. A dry needling procedure led to a partial lung collapse for TJ Watt. Required emergency surgery. Definitely out tonight. Not ruled out for playoffs rest of the season. Oh my God. Dry needling. Steelers record with that TJ Watt. Not good. Not good. So the Dolphins, really, really hot. 4-game win streak with a dominant rushing attack. They've had 769 yards rushing in 4 games, averaging 5.7, almost 6 yards per carry, 42 first downs on the ground, 24 explosive runs, and 7 rushing touchdowns in the last 4 games. Speed and finesse are the Dolphins' ingredients in this rushing attack. Some call them soft, but if you can find a way to get to the jungle, you get to the jungle. However you can get there. Tua's record in cold weather, not good. That makes sense. Dolphins trying to change the narrative about being soft, trying to get a win in cold Pittsburgh tonight. Outdoor game, gritty game. The temperature is going to be about 17. It is cold back there in AFC North territory. I'm getting ready to go back next week to 9-degree temperatures. And I'm excited, but it might be brutal at the same time. Just chaps me to hell, man. That the Bengals, with the product they put on the field, these fans, these Cincinnati fans, they deserve so much and they suffer so much more. Still showed up for this team yesterday. The team gets shut out at home to a division opponent. And the Bengals can't even pay people $20 an hour to clear snow and ice off of stadium seats. And apparently it's a violation of conduct in the league. The Bengals should have been fined for it. The Bengals, I don't know who they got, who they're sleeping with up in the NFL front office, whether Goodell just looks at the Bengals and says, oh, Paul Brown, football royalty, you guys can kind of not have to take accountability for anything. But the Bengals give a half-assed statement in response saying that, it's very easy to brush snow off of seats, basically. And the NFL accepted that response, and they're not going to be fined or held accountable for it. This is why the Bengals are the Bengals. It starts with little things. If you want to run a football organization, first thing you need to take a class on is doing little things. Brushing off stadium seats for fans that show up to 9-degree weather for a 4-10 team to get shut out by a division opponent. Brushing off snow and ice on your seats for those fans. That's doing the little things. That's what good organizations do. And the Bengals did not do that. So, it'll be interesting, man. The Steelers inconsistent. The Dolphins have been running the ball really well. But it's in cold weather. Give me the Dolphins. I'm biased against the Steelers, but give me the Dolphins. I'm going to go to jiu-jitsu, guys. The Colts game was fun. We'll talk more about this stuff. The first 14 minutes of the episode are muted. For some reason, my streaming software was not communicating with my mic. So if you choose to go back in the replay, go back to about minute 14, minute 15. I'm sorry about that. We don't have a production crew, and we still find a way to give you guys the latest football content every single day. So hit that subscribe button so that we can start getting revenue on this channel, so that I can start paying a production team to monitor my microphone levels. I'm taking full accountability. I should have made sure the mic was working. But if you guys could do something that's totally free with no obligation other than clicking a button to you, it would help us a lot if you subscribed to the channel. I've got to go. We're going to update the audio platforms here soon. With all the new episodes. You can get the podcast that way as well. Maybe I'll try and upload the lost portion of this episode, the 14 minutes. But if I did that, I would just be repeating myself. So I'm late as shit. I'm just realizing jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to run you guys. Please subscribe to the channel. Please consider doing that. We're here Monday through Friday, 6-ish Eastern, live. Got Madden streams on this channel, got live commentary on this channel, and we're on Spotify and every other streaming platform, audio you can think of. I got to go, guys. Love y'all. Appreciate you.